Hey, it's nice to have friends in the room. Can you hear me? Good. It's nice to have friends in the room, and he oversold me. I don't know about the excellent guy part. I'm not sure about that at all. First of all, I just want to say this. I am thrilled to be here this weekend. There's something that's magic about this. There's something that's uplifting about this. There's some sort of energy that's created when you bring together the greatest minds in Relay for Life from around the globe and you put them in the same room. There's some energy that comes from this. There's something that just lifts me up and it carries me throughout the rest of the year. Now, I don't know if anybody has said this to you yet or not, and if they did, I doubt you believe them, but ladies and gentlemen, you are the best of the best, the brightest of the brightest. You could not be a chump and get an airline ticket to Orlando, Florida this weekend. Give yourselves a hand. I want you to, for a second, look around the room and see the faces. I want you to look at the person next to you. I want you to look at the person behind you, because friends, you are, and some of you are actually doing that. That's good. Friends, you are, and you are among the leaders that are the future of Relay for Life, the people that will take us to the next level. Those people are here this weekend, and our future depends on you. And I, for one, would be honored to be a member of your social network, just as the people before me would be honored to be a member of your social network. And I put up a photo here of Pat Flynn for two reasons. Number one, I love Pat Flynn. Do you love Pat Flynn? I love Pat Flynn. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for her encouragement and support. And sometimes I wonder if it weren't for the mother of Relay, if any of us would be here today. Her input, her ability to drive this forward, her ability to teach what she learned was so important. I don't know if Relay for Life would be today what it is if it weren't for Pat Flynn. But my second reason for putting up a photo of Pat Flynn is that I hope that if you know we're good friends, you will think I'm cool. And if you think I'm cool, I hope you'll like me, and I need you to like me because you're not going to like what I'm about to say next. What I'm about to say next is to tell you the honest truth, and that is that I'm not bright at all. I am not very bright, and I have very little talent. And the tragedy for you, the really sad news is this, that I am the guy with the microphone for the next several minutes. But I want to make that disclaimer right up front because I don't want to give you any false hope. I don't want to leave you any false impressions. I want you to know that I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm only here to tell a story. I'm here to tell a story that I hope will start a conversation. And the story that I'm going to tell is about the Relay for Life of Tacoma. Now, I brought some family pictures, right? Because before we talk about what we learned, I want to show you what the event was like. I kind of want to give you a feel for how things went. This, I swear to you, was probably the best committee I've ever been a part of. Operationally, they were incredible. We actually finished setup early. Has that ever happened to you? Has it? It was the first time for you. Has it? It has never happened for us. At 6 o'clock, when the survivors gathered around the track to start the opening lap, everybody was in their places with bright, shiny faces. We were ready to go. We were ready to go. They started their lap, and everybody, they circled the track. There were raving fans all around, clapping and cheering. And as they finished their lap, as the last survivor went past, the other participants filled in behind them. We circled around, and we gathered back. One slide, please. We gathered back at the stage. Now, this ceremony, the opening ceremony, we've always struggled with, but this year we put some different people in charge. Normally, at the opening ceremony, we say a prayer, we listen to the mayor, there's a few claps, a few yawns, and we get this thing started. How exciting is the mayor? What does he know about Relay? This year, they said that this is the celebrate part of this thing, and we're going to celebrate. Turn up the volume, put in a funky dance beat, and let's see what happens. From that idea came a flash mob. The flash mob started, and I don't know if you can see this, but these people are dancing. Do you see that? And if you recognize some of these faces, as some of us would, I actually see my mom in this picture, which is really weird to see my mom dance. I didn't know she did that. They were thrilled, they were excited, and that momentum carried us all the way through to our ceremonies. The Luminaria ceremony also was planned by a different group, and it was slightly different, and it was improved, it was memorable. The gentleman that shared his story was a young man named Doug. Doug told the story, paid tribute to the life of his daughter, a 12-year-old that we tragically lost to cancer a few years ago. Her story, the last time he told the story, it was to a reporter from the Seattle Times who followed them through their cancer journey, and when he finished that story, it won a Pulitzer Prize. He paid tribute. He showed pictures. He even played a video, and when he was done, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. After Doug, we had the bagpiper lead us around like we normally do. We had the bagpiper lead us around for the final lap, and we concluded with the gospel singers singing, "Glory, Glory." What a perfect ending to the ceremony. And then the next day, the activities people kicked in. The people that own this space are unbelievable, and every year we have more and more people stay for the closing lap. Our teams had a blast. We're testing a different theory. We have this theory. We're looking for grant funding right now. We have this theory that relay makes you crazy. Right? You guys are off a little bit. Do you admit that? Okay. So we took this perfectly innocent group of fourth graders. This happens to be my daughter's team. We had this perfectly innocent group of fourth graders. My daughter was essentially born at a relay, but for the rest of them, this is their first experience. We gave them a battery of tests, and we asked them to pose for this photo, and the tests demonstrated what we thought, that is that they were perfectly normal. We sent them a limited dose. We sent them around the track and exposed to relay for exactly 1 hour. It was a very controlled test. We sent them around the track for 1 hour. We asked them to come back. We gave them a battery of tests. We gave them a battery of tests. Before you expose your, back up one more, please. I'm probably pushing the button, I'm so excited. Before you send your kids into a relay, I want you to look at what that does to these kids. Wait for the results of our test before you do that. I included this picture because I only wanted you to know that apparently Mr. Peanut is a cancer survivor. Did you know? He walked in our survivor lap anyway. This year's relay was the best one yet. It came from a 26-year volunteer. And I didn't include her name because to make my point, I need to say this about her. She is ornery. She is nasty. She is opinionated. She is most of the time difficult. And if you didn't know her, you would think she was mean. But if you did know her, you would know she has a heart of gold. She has a heart of gold, and she could not possibly say anything that she doesn't believe in. You know what? She was right. By all outward appearances, this was the best relay ever. It truly was. It was perfect from an operational standpoint. It was perfect by every measure that we could look at except one. And do you want to guess what that one was? Money. And so as you get really introspective as you finish up this event, you did everything that you thought you needed to do, and you still came up a little bit short. What did we do? Last year, I told you the story about us getting a little bit we lost our entrepreneurial spirit. We turned into these check-the-box people. These check-the-box people that just kind of went through the motions. We lost our creativity. We didn't own our own space. We kind of built a box around us and got stuck in it. We fixed that. We addressed that. We became better coaches. We planted that seed last year, and it paid off this year. But one of the other things that we noticed right away, but we didn't quite know how to articulate last year, was this, that we lost the strength and the depth of some of the relationships that got us to where we are today. I think I would paint the picture this way. It was sort of like me at a cocktail party. It's sort of the cocktail party experience, right? When you circled the track, you'd walk around and you'd see faces of people that you know. We had some dear friends there, but in many cases, there was lots of people we didn't know. And where we really missed the opportunity is because we didn't know them, we didn't introduce them to each other. We lost this feeling, I think, of this one big, giant, happy family. And the other thing I learned in talking to people afterwards is this, is that even with our most dear friends, we sometimes forgot to ask about them and to really listen to them. We forgot to ask about them. And I could say this. I could look at this challenge and try and put it into relay context in a lot of different ways. In all of these categories, I have a story, but I'm going to focus on just a few. Event leadership committee and other volunteers, I'd say where we missed our opportunity. Where we missed our opportunity is that we know these people, we knew these people, but we didn't know them. Does that make sense? We didn't know what made them tick. We didn't know what they aspired to be. We didn't know what their true interests were. When it came time to identify the next people, we weren't sure who they were. What a tragedy. We missed that. We missed that. Teams is probably the space where I'd probably spend the most time because to me it's the most interesting. These are the people that really broaden the network, where we really find our leverage within a community, and we blew it. We missed it. Our teams, we used to formally, in the old days, we had mentors, a mentor assigned to every single team. That mentor, whether they've been there or not before, that mentor reached out to them and talked to them and shared with them upcoming events, encouraged them, asked them if they needed anything else. They developed a relationship over the years, but then we introduced some new tools. Some tools that really helped. They made us more efficient. We used email to send out reminders. We used the website to post upcoming events. We raised money online and had feedback as they were raising money. But we dropped the mentor program, and in doing that, what we realize now is that we gave up that two-way communication. We gave up that friendship. We gave up that person who is there for you when you find out that your uncle was re-diagnosed. And it became obvious to me when I made my very first phone call that year. I was coming back. I had done this once before. I was coming back as a co-chair, and one of the staff people said, "You need to call Bob and Joyce. You need to call Bob and Joyce because they didn't have a good time last year. Call them and reassure them." And I called, and Joyce answered. At that point, about a 20-year team captain. Over the years, they raised about $400,000 for us. They get it. They get it. She answered the phone and she said, "Brian, I'm glad you called because we're actually thinking about going to another event." And my jaw hit the table, right? I mean, I listened. I listened for the next hour probably as we talked about some of the challenges, and she said, "Brian, it's just not fun." And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, it's not that different. What are we missing? What are we missing? One of our best teams was thinking about going to another event. What are we missing? What are we missing? And vendors, how do people that you pay get mad at you, right? What happened is we got an email from TV Tacoma. Had been with us since its very beginning, over 20 years. I think it was about 25 years. We got an email from Fred. Fred is the greatest guy in the world and said, "I just don't think it's in our budget this year." They kicked in a lot of it. "I don't think it's in our budget this year." I was shocked. They were always a part of it. They weren't mad. They just felt like they weren't important. They felt like they weren't as important part of it. What I learned is this. What I learned is that what started out as tools for us, these electronic tools, what started out as tools for us they were an aid in the beginning, they became a crutch. We became too dependent on them. They made us efficient, and so we liked it. We sent emails reminding people of everything. Instead of sending out the newsletter in the mail, we emailed it or we posted it on the website. We quit doing the things that we normally would do to create and build these relationships. We quit doing some of these very, very basic things. If you back up one slide, please. We quit doing some of these very, very basic things. And I was sitting there pondering that one day. And Ernest Finnessy, our IT guy, was in my office one day, and he said, "You know, Brian, you might have to unplug before you reconnect." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Ernest, that's brilliant." He said, "Dude, I'm talking about your PC." But he was right. He didn't know it, but he was right. We might need to go back to some of the basics, to have some of those conversations, to gain the emotional commitment, to build those ties that'll take us to the next level. The fix is really pretty easy because it just means we need to go back to what we used to do. The fix is really pretty easy. And I could talk about event leadership. I could give you examples in each of these, but really with event leadership, it started off this way. I raised my hand and said, "All right, I'll do it." I called my friends, the people that I knew. I've been in the trenches before. I knew they'd do it. I knew they'd do it again. I knew they'd do it with reckless abandon. I knew they would take no prisoners and not apologize for it. They said, "I'm in if you are," and then they called their friends. They didn't send emails. You didn't leave voicemails. They reached out to these people. They said, "Let's do this." We divided the committee list, and we all called people on the committee and said, "Hey, we're up for this. Are you in again?" And they said yes. Committee and other volunteers, we just needed to create this family environment, right? We needed to bond. We needed to get together, and to do that, we needed to get to know each other. You know you're successful if at the closing of your event, there are tears and hugs and chest bumps and whatever those things are called, fist bump, whatever it is, you know you've won. But with teams is probably the most interesting because, like I said, it's our greatest leverage into the community. With teams, we brought back the mentor program. I called the lady that did this the last time I co-chaired. I had 4 phone numbers for her. She had sort of slipped away and out of my social network. 4 phone numbers. The first 3 were disconnected. On the 4th dial, I hear this voice. Hi, this is Debbie. It was bubbly, it was happy, and I was pleased. And I said, Debbie Takahashi. She said, well, it's Debbie House now, but Brian, is that you? And it ended the same way it ended last time. She said, I'm kind of busy. And I said, I know you are. That's why I called. Busy people get things done, and we need you. And she came back. She sent me an email the other day that said, you know, there's times where I wonder if I should have answered that day, but what I realize is that I'm back where I belong. I am back where I belong. For teams, we know, we were told along the way that we weren't having these meaningful conversations. I was worried that we weren't listening. We created reasons in that first summer. We knew if we waited till kickoff, it would be too late. We created reasons that summer to get people back together to talk about this. We made up meetings. Have you ever done that? We called one an event evaluation. We called one a committee development brainstorming session. We called, and I don't even remember what we called the other. It didn't really matter. We created reasons to get in front of these people because we knew we needed to listen to them. And we asked them, what are we doing well? What do we need to fix? We listened. We listened. We listened, and then we said, we told them our story. We told them what we planned to do. We told them what we hoped to accomplish. We shared this vision together, and we moved on. It made a difference. We knew we connected with the people that came in that room, and each meeting, it got a little bit better. We rolled that into our team captains or our teams meetings. We didn't limit it to just captains. We rolled that into our teams meetings. We actually changed it from more of a presentation format. We attempted to make it more of a conversation than a presentation. More of a conversation than a presentation. We passed the mic, and the first few times we did it, you could have heard crickets. No one wanted to grab the microphone at a Teams meeting and say anything, but now you can't shut them up. They love it. We let them talk about their upcoming fundraisers. We let them talk about their successes. They loved it. It changed the environment. If we could back up just one more slide. We changed the environment. We changed the environment. They knew we were listening. They knew they were an important part of it, and we heard what they said. With vendors, it was simple, really, right? They are important, and you know these people donate as much. They donate as much as most people do. They just give us price breaks. They're in it. They're in it with us. They're in it with us, and what they're doing is important. They need to feel that way. We need to have those relationships. Does that make sense? It's getting back to the basics. It's getting back to the basics. I have this fear of telling you the challenges that we face in Tacoma, Washington. It's not any more important than any event in here. In fact, there's better examples, I'm sure. But my fear is this. My fear is not that I admit that we're not perfect. I can handle that. We're not. We're learning. We're reaching. We're growing. We're trying to find new ways to do things. My fear of mentioning the challenges that we face in Tacoma, Washington, is that some people, the uninitiated, would assume that some of our challenges relate to our age. My fear is that around cocktail parties, maybe even later tonight, somebody's going to say, they've been doing this for 27 years. They're getting old. If you say that to my face, I will kick you in the shins. I will kick you in the shins because I assure you that the challenges that we face have nothing to do with our age. In fact, I would argue that our potential today is as great or greater than it was a decade ago. Our potential is greater today than it was a decade ago. Our challenges came to us because we veered off course. The troubling thing is it veered off course while people were watching. It veered off course. It's happened before. I'm certain it'll happen again, but I want you to know for sure. I want you to know for sure that we'll find our way back on track. And if not, 30 of my friends will die trying. We will get this thing back on track. And this is an interesting, I love this. Betty Davis said, old age ain't for sissies. Am I saying that the things that you did in the very beginning will work as your event matures? I think it requires some different thought. I think it requires some different energy. Some of those things that were easy when the event was new require now leadership, motivation, inspiration to get done. To keep it alive, to keep people engaged, it requires good people like you to do it. It requires good people like you to do it. To get those things done, it requires an emotional attachment, a commitment. It requires good relationships to get it done. Old age ain't for sissies. Old age ain't for sissies. You got to fight for it. You got to fight for it every day. Frustration. I don't want any of those things about our age to sound like an excuse. I say this all the time, it didn't take a year to break it. It's going to take more than a year to fix it. And I don't want that to sound like an excuse, because I want you to know that what we've done, we've left something on the table. I want you to know, and I'm going to say this even though it is an F word, I want you to know that I'm frustrated. Frustration's an F word because you can't say it in your committee. You can't show it on your face. No one can suspect you're frustrated. And God forbid you stand on a stage in front of 500 people and say you're frustrated. It's the F word. But I think the problem with saying frustrated is this. Well, first of all, let me tell you what frustration means to me. Frustration means to me that somewhere deep down inside you, in your soul, you know that you're capable of more than you're doing. You're capable of more than you're doing. You're frustrated. And I think for some people it's a negative word, and it might be. I don't know the linguistic history, but in my twisted mind, some people focus on frustration, the gap between what they're doing and what they're capable of, and they focus on the negative, but I choose to look at it a different way. I focus on what's possible and how cool it would be to get there. What's possible and how cool it would be to get there, and it puts this fire in my belly, as Jeff Ross would say, I think. It puts this fire in my belly. It gets me out of bed at 4:30 in the morning, and it gets me to pick up the phone at 6 o'clock at night, and I'm tired and I'm ready to go home. It's this motivational force. My grandpa used to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'll tell you this, he was wrong when it comes to relay. If it ain't broke, go fix it anyway. Go back to your communities and look at these events. Look at your committees. Look at your teams. If you don't sense that anything's wrong, pay better attention. As relays evolve and they grow older, they become this organism of their own. Everyone's going to give you advice on how to fix things. Everybody's going to give you advice on how to fix things. But it becomes this organism of its own, and I swear to you that if you're patient, if you're quiet and you pay close attention, you listen, you look, you pay close attention, that your relay will tell you what you need to do to fix it. It'll become obvious, and you will be the only one that will know how to do it. Hundreds of people will give you advice. You will be the ones to know what advice works for you. If it ain't broke, go back and look at it anyway, because if you get off track, it takes a while to get back on track, and we can't afford that time. We can't afford that time. I want to finish by saying this. That because of you, and because of your Relay friends back home, and because of Relay for Life in general, because of Relay for Life, we have made an incredible difference. An incredible difference in the war on cancer. Would you agree? We would not be where we are today if it wasn't for Relay for Life. We wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't be where we are today. But ladies and gentlemen, you know this. I probably don't even need to say it. You know that that is not our potential. That is not our potential, because that's not how this story ends. It can't end here, and it can't end until we find a cure. Our potential is to take this thing further, to take this thing higher, to raise more money, not because we have a goal, not because we need to show growth, and not for silly things such as pride. We need to take this thing higher. We need to make it more, because we need to raise the funds that it's going to take to find a cure. Our potential is to raise the funds needed to end this thing once and for all and forever. Together, we have the power. We have the people. With you in this room and your networks back home, we have the power and the ability to raise mountains and to tear down walls. We have the ability to take this thing higher, but for us to do it, it's going to require the commitment of every single one of you. And not just that, it's going to require you to go back home, to tap your friends on the shoulder and say, let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. It's going to require every single one of us to grab hands, to join in a common cause, to pick up the banner and charge up the hill, and it's going to take us to do this with ferociousness. We can't apologize. We won't take enemies. We've got to do it. And I think you know that. But the thing that I think we forget at times is this, is that now is the time to do it. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now is the time to do it. Because our efforts save lives. If we get there sooner, we save lives faster. We need to approach this. We need to approach this with a sense of, with passion, with a sense of urgency. We need to get there now. And so, for my friends in the other corner of this country, from Tacoma, Washington, from my friends to you here today, we say to you that we're with you. We'll pick up that banner. We'll charge into war with you. We'll climb the hill. We'd rush through a burning building if we had to. We're with you. We're with you. Our network is in. Is your network in? Are you guys on board? And as I said, for my friends in Tacoma, Washington, to you, I say good luck, God bless. Let's see what we can do.